Hello and welcome to another episode of the Leadership Lens, where we speak with global leaders on what's trending in the ecosystem. Today, we have with us Dr. Avinash Jhangiani, who's a facilitator of joy and serious playfulness in the workplace for innovation and well-being. He is the author of Play2Transform, a book that I recently had the privilege to read, which is about bringing your inner child and playfulness to be able to create a better workplace, to be able to be a better leader. So Dr. Jhangiani is a leadership coach, he's a trainer, he's an innovation consultant in the US with the likes of Deloitte, Omnicom, and Reliance. Under his leadership at Omnicom, PhD Media won 6 Lions at the Cannes Creativity Festival in 2024, which was a historic moment for the Indian advertising industry. Wonderful to have you on the Leadership Lens, Dr. Avinash. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Shiny.
Wow. Hi. This is really cute.
How's it going?
Very nice. Very nice. How are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. I'm so sorry. Avinash is not available, so he asked me to play proxy. Is that fine?
Yes, that's absolutely fine. Love to talk with you.
Oh, hold on. I think he's feeling a
He's
little
back?
better now. Yeah, he's
Okay.
back.
Hi.
Hello.
Wonderful to have you on the Leadership Lens. I think we've had quite a few serious conversations here, and
Yes.
to have you bring some playfulness to this now. Awesome, awesome. So, Avinash read that book, loved it. But tell me what, and it's a very different from all the other, I don't think there are books in this category in the first place, but any other so-called self-help books or anything of that sort, any kind of, inspiring books. Very different approach to leadership, to corporate workspaces. What was your inspiration? I mean, this is my most curious question here. What was your inspiration to do something like this?
Yeah, so here's what we'll do. I think it's time to merge these two worlds, right? Because in the way we've been born and brought up, right, that we've been told that if you want to play, you can go to a playground, there's a specific environment for that. But if you want to be serious and just get some important things done, then there is an office for that and there's a workplace. And I think thanks to the past 2 years of the pandemic, where it's given us humanity a reality check that at the end of the day, we are humans, right? And we need to really untap into our inner child, just be who we are, accept who we are, and others as well, right? In this whole midst of, well-being, which is becoming a very hot thing these days, interestingly, because we are humans and well-being should have been there all this while. But now it's becoming so important, again, in the context of driving creativity and innovation. Because if you're not happy, you're not having a good time, how are you going to innovate in the organization, right? Simply put. And because I have a lot of boring, sedate experience working with multiple industries in the US and in India, I've had the opportunity to work with senior leaders. I have been in that spot itself. We are pretty much told, or we all agree, that we need to have this shield or this guard, right? We have to act professional, right? And every time we think of leader, we think of authority. We think of an individual who is a serious person. Rarely we ever think of anyone who is playful and who can just be who they are. But the irony is, the most approachable leaders, the most playful leaders, if you will, are those who actually share their vulnerability, right? And is what my experience has been. So I said, okay, now that we are done with the pandemic and it's time for change, a lot of leaders now just don't have the responsibility of driving digital transformation. They also have the responsibility now to drive, or I would say accelerate, more human-centric initiatives like ESG and diversity, inclusion, DEI, and the like. And the struggle I'm seeing now in leaders, the struggle has always been there, but now I am seeing them at least accept that I don't have an option, but I have to be a little more humane with my work, right? In terms of how I deal with others. If I don't have the answers, it's better if I admit and ask for help. So a lot of this has been, I mean, I would say, in short, the inspiration of writing the book, because a lot of us, if you ask me, we all have an inner child irrespective of our age. The problem is with leaders who are now leading organizations or even smaller teams, our education system and our society and our environment have told us to use your rational mind more than your heart or your intuition and gut. And we are seeing, as we are moving into this world of uncertainty, a lot of leaders are now struggling with that old mindset, that industrial age mindset. So it's time to now work with our heart, our intuition, as well as our mind. So in the book, I talk about this in depth. I call it the heartland, the headland, and then the handsland, right? In terms of how leaders should operate. So inspiration is actually from my inner child to your inner child. It's from, it's from a space where I've always urged to, and I've seen leaders, right? They want to really share the honest, true version of themselves, but the environment as such hasn't really allowed them to do that. But now we don't have a choice. We have to build psychologically safe environments.
Our education systems are changing a lot. I think all this is being incorporated early on into children, but into adults who've already been molded in a certain format.
Yeah.
This is really helpful. You want to tell me a little more about these three lines that you spoke about: the heart line, the headline, and the hand line, right?
Yeah, so I mean, it's like 6 chapters in the book, but I'll give you a very high level kind of overview. See, in the way we've been born and brought up, we've been told to put our best foot forward, and which is why very unconsciously we try and think as logically and rationally as possible. So our hands land, if you will, right? We have three islands, I say, of transformation. We have hands land, we have heartland, and we have the headland, right? Hands land, headland, and the heartland. Now, the thing which we've been born and brought up to do so beautifully is a logical, analytical mind, which is actually the headland. We know how to predict, we know how to anticipate challenges, fear, and if you give me a problem, then I'm going to use all the rational and all the logical ways to solve it, and we'll always put our best foot forward, the best solution according to us based on our beliefs, habits, experiences, etc. But what we are seeing now, in order to really thrive in uncertainty, which means if I see a challenge, do I want to survive the crisis or do I want to thrive in the crisis? Which means, should I now transform that challenge into an opportunity for learning and growth? And in order to do that, a lot of my research and a lot of my experience has shown that those leaders who have a nice kind of combination of their heart, their intuition, which is what the heartland is in terms of the transformation, and combine it with the head, that's the kind of leader we need today, right? Who has that sense of empathy, is willing to let their guard down and be able to ask for help, because I don't think anyone out there has all the answers. As much as we've been told, right, the leader should have all the answers and help us direct. Today is a world of co-creation across the organization, across levels, across our departments and functions. We have to be able to reach out when a challenge or a crisis happens to us, and we saw that in the past, say 2020 to 2022, during COVID. Uh, it was an experiment. It was probably the largest social experiment ever done, especially for leaders. And we saw that a lot of leaders quit, right? A lot of leaders went within themselves to really question what are they doing in this rigmarole of earning a living, right? We never have, had an opportunity to really question what are we doing in this 8 to 5 job, which has now become 8 to I don't know what, right? 8 to 8. And so it was a great opportunity to question. And is what, leaders are in that stage now, that if I'm not enjoying the work that I'm doing, if I'm not providing value, right? And a lot of those questions come up, will come from a very different space in your heart, right? We always were told be professional, right? Don't get emotional in the workplace. Now we are saying express yourself. Know when to show your emotions, share your vulnerability, right? So all that is the heartland, the headline we already expert in terms of the analytical thinking and how we use our conscious minds for planning, controlling, overthinking. We all gods and goddesses in that. But over there also, I would recommend just relax a little, all right, and try and combine the data and insights you get from your heart and your gut with your conscious mind. That combination of logic and emotion now has to be done in a very conscious manner. And the last one is hands, because here's where I would say play really comes into fruition. So if you remember, and I know you have a kid, when your kid was like 3 years old, right? And I'll give you an incident which happened with me, and it really opened up my eyes, right? I'm sure a lot of epiphanies have happened in your life. So we were at the hospital, and I left my 4-year-old kid at this creche. You know, you have this playground where you just leave the kid so you can go and do all the boring logistical stuff in the hospital. But obviously, as a dad, I was a little afraid. Ki, I don't know, right? Like, will the kid be able to adjust with the other kids? Will he understand how to move around that environment? Because it was a new kind of a space to really play in. When this boy went into that environment, I was pleasantly surprised to see how he went around saying things in his own language, which is not English, right? Something he was saying, playing, doing, climbing up the slide, over there, playing, and just hanging around with the kids as if he knew them. It's the most natural way to engage with other kids, and that really, just made me think, why don't, if we are born with this skill, I mean, it's interesting how the World Economic Forum says collaboration is a competency and innovation and emotional intelligence are all skills. I'm like, we are all born with these innate skills, right? So what really happened along the way that we forgot the most critical skills we need today in the workplace. So I really believe it is within us, but it's important we leave our digital devices and start interacting more in person, because it's time we all empathy, vulnerability, co creation, agility, which is all of these fancy buzzwords, is simply what we were born with, right? And you experience that every time you go and do some free play. So I'll give you a little bit of concept of the hands land in terms of free play and rule play, because I think leaders need to understand that at the end of the day you will have environments which you create in the workplace, which will allow people to express themselves in any fashion you want, right? So free plays like you have a pool table, you have snookers, you allow your employee to do stuff around the workplace. It could be a cubicle, an open space, right? Have these kind of things around, right? Now, the moment I show you this, I don't even have to say it. It brings a smile on your face, right? And the moment it brings a smile on your face, automatically when others see, they get attracted into this environment. Now imagine a leader having a Rubik's cube in his cabin, or say anything playful, that it could be Lego, it could be giraffes, it could be elephants, anything, right? Or just have an environment which is more welcoming, I would say, right? That can, truly, I would say, just having your door open, as they say, right? I have an open door kind of policy. What does that mean? You have to be able to execute that open door. So open door in my mind is open heart. No point of having an open door when you're not approachable, when you have not created a safe environment for me to interact with you. So the idea is to really use your hands, your heart, and your head to be able to build the future and help your teams really thrive in uncertainty. Because at the end of the day, if you're not happy and playful, you cannot move, you cannot expect disruptive growth and well-being. It's not going to happen.
Absolutely. I think let the job of the AI stay with the AI, and humans and leaders specifically need to be more human, uh, not less robotic,
Yes.
less, break out of that clutter that we all learn. So, Avinash, you've been speaking a lot about design thinking. I think you're also a design thinking coach. Now, for a leader of today, how do they kind of execute this kind of playfulness, this kind of design thinking into a corporate workspace? What are the easiest ways to do that?
Yeah. So it's important. I just, because everybody today has their own view on design thinking. My view is very strategic in nature. Obviously, if you ask me what is design thinking, it is simply thinking like a designer would. Now, if you had to explain it to a child, that definition will not help because they don't know who's a designer. I'm talking about a 3 or 4 year. Just having a childlike beginner's kind of a mindset, right? Starting from there. And I gave you some examples, right, in the past. Just being yourself, being authentic, right, is actually the beginning of how, I mean, I would say you want to think in order to embrace the chaos and uncertainty we are in. So I love design thinking because we have an opportunity there to get our head out of the way. It's not about us. It's always about the other person. And I'm not talking about social service. I'm talking about empathy. I'm talking about thinking from the other's point of view. And that is not just logically, but emotionally feeling, thinking, hearing, seeing, doing like what they would do. Right. And of course, it's a process we go through in the design thinking. But for me, it's a mindset. 24 by 7 operating in that mindset is almost like being ready for anything that might come in the way, which is one. Two, knowing that I don't have the answers and it's okay to fail because I see failure as an opportunity to first learn from that, but then also grow. So there isn't anything called failure from a negative perspective in the design thinking process because it's an experiment. You're trying something that nobody has tried before. And typically, when we look at design thinking, we want to use that process or have that kind of mindset in situations which are ill defined or wicked in nature. So, I'll give you some corporate context. We all talk about gender inequality, hot topic, or diversity. People don't even understand the difference between diversity and gender equality. And I've been invited into conferences where I've been told, because of diversity, we can't have you on the panel. So I'm like, we need a woman on the panel. And I've been told, for crying out loud, do you even know what whoa, diversity means? It's not about gender, it's about different points of view because the idea is to bring new disruptive thoughts to the table. That is why you want a woman, that's why you want a man, that's why you want LGBTQ, etc., etc. Right? You want, which is only gender diverse. But a lot of people today generally think gender, equality is bringing a woman into the table and the same as diversity. So I struggle with that. And these are, like, even as I'm explaining, it's hard to even make people understand that, which is why I call it a wicked problem. Now, design thinking is a beautiful way to apply, and really address these problems. It could also be hunger, right? It could be infrastructure. It could be change management, which we are seeing today in digital transformation. Everybody wants technology, but the moment you're given a technology, we are struggling to adapt. We're like, why do we have our own way of doing it, which is which is why we say if you would have thought from the point of view of the user using the tech, then you would have got a higher rate of adoption. That is human centric design, which is what really design thinking is. Putting the human at the center of technology and transformation and which is where I love design thinking. So at a very tactical level, I would say user experience design, interfaces, digital, all that stuff we all know, but you can use it for behavior change. And I love doing that with leaders because a lot of us are born in the industrial age, and we now need to shift our mindsets and think and feel very differently in the creative digital age and now AI age. How do I make them shift? So I use that kind of design process to really help them think differently. There are a number of other examples. It can be used in operations excellence, all of that. Anywhere where you can't even, you're struggling to even articulate the question, or the problem statement, is a beautiful, I would say use design thinking as a process to address the problem.
Yeah, correct. Thank you. Thank you so much. Avinash, another thing that you touched upon is playfulness, or being able to do some amount of serious play, are we calling it? And we see that a lot of these big companies, companies that a lot of us look up to, let's say there is a Google, there is a Facebook, there is a Meta, there is a LinkedIn, all of them have some specific designated areas for play. So there are foosball tables, or there are, I don't know, there are pool tables, and there is this, very inbuilt culture of playing during the workday. Is that is that a very important piece in today's work culture? And I think these are companies that had it far before we started these conversations on play and
Mhm.
being able to, be more playful, more childlike. What aspects, how does it really help an organization do something like this?
Yeah, yeah. So I'll try and answer your question in two parts
Mhm.
because from a serious organization outcome, perspective, it is obviously, I mean, as you said, you have the Googles, you have the Amazons and the Salesforce that have built a playful environment, a physical environment, right? Now, the reason they do this, and so you can't really blame the Gen Zs when they want to work there, and in the place that you are in, it's a very startup-y, right, environment. Now, why do I love to work in such an environment? The basic reason is because of the underlying mediators of play. And I'll give you some examples of what those mediators are. These kind of physical environments very subconsciously are rediscovering your inner child. That kind of child that we've suppressed all this while through our education system, etc., etc. Right? Now, when we move into an environment like this, it actually ignites those happy hormones, whether we know it or not. We feel happy, okay, in that environment. And as I said, your ability to create or solve complex problems first comes from, am I feeling like myself? Am I able to express myself? Am I comfortable in the space that I'm working in? If I am not comfortable, if I can't let my guard down, I can't have a sense of humor or a giggle, I can't reach out to people easily. If I am told to do everything opposite, work in a hierarchy, only talk to your boss if there's a problem, if there's a situation, only work with your team members. If you're given this kind of a structure which is not flat, then I'm not going to feel playful. So the underlying mediators like flexibility, autonomy, right? That psychological safety, these are underlying mediators that ultimately bring outcomes of trust, collaboration, right? This is what is required to disrupt and create something new, right? So, from a serious organization outcome, physical environment is very important, but that's not enough. I have been in organizations where I can give you names where you have very fancy, cool environments, but if the people who you're reporting into and your team members don't depict those values of play and having that kind of mindset. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying be a child all the time, 24 by 7, but you have to be smart enough to know when to have the logical hat on, when to have the analytical, the emotional hat, when to behave like an adult, in the serious fashion, the analytical, rational way. When do I go back to being a child? That means being naturally yourself, sharing your vulnerability, experimenting, being agile. All these are childlike kind of mindsets that we've forgotten, and now I have to do workshops with people to remind them. Which is so interesting. But the thing is, it is a mindset. So what I do in my work is I bring in design thinking underlying with play, because I've seen organizations terribly failing at design thinking as a process because they treat it like a rigid process without making the shift in their behavior. So I can say empathy is the process, and I can give you ethnographic research. I can say, yes, go and observe, keep yourself in the shoes of the end user. I can ask you to do that. But if you yourself are not thinking right, right, that thinking is very important, right? At times I will do divergent thinking. That means I'll keep my mind open to absorb ideas, but at times I will close my mind and think analytically. This is a mindset, it is just not a process. And a lot of organizations struggle with this. So when I infuse play into the environment, and I did that workshop at at iMedia, and we'll be doing others at AdTech. I do this at workshops across organizations, be startups as well as larger organizations like Google, Amazon, HP, SR Group, and the like. Very rigid, very traditional, as well as perceived as very innovative. Everybody has a problem from mid to senior level management. So typically, I know I'm going after the people who are probably 15, 18 years older, who are leading teams of some size, whether it is a full business or small team. We have to be able to adopt this kind of a entanglement, which is, is what I say in play, where I know as a leader who to be at what point of time in a situation. The problem now is whether there's a crisis or there's normal work going on, I'm always serious as a leader. Or even if I want to be a little joyful or playful, I will pick the moment. And typically, it will not be in a crisis. Crisis is the place to actually bring in your playfulness, because the disruptive ideas, the new ideas will come from that space of your heart and your mind, which you also couldn't imagine. So imagine a leader who creates a safe environment, a playful environment, and says, I'm willing to listen to you. I need your help, irrespective of your designation. That's a beautiful way to just embrace uncertainty, right? Then you let everybody just give ideas and be themselves irrespective. Then crisis becomes an opportunity to create something new that even a Gen Z or a younger leader who hasn't had the opportunity to do, right? But leaders buy-in is very important. So design thinking, play actually goes hand in hand, and I would say play is actually the secret of implementing, or I would say a successful design thinking kind of process. But more importantly, it's a way of life, right? Play is the universal language of transformation and innovation.
Thanks, Avinash. I think your book really talks, tells us how not to let a good crisis go to waste. Uh, and the next question that I have is about curiosity, and I'm full of quotes today. So, since childhood, we've been taught curiosity killed the cat, and we've been taught to it's kind of as we grow to subdue these natural curiosities. To we've been as a child, you've been constantly told, don't ask so many questions, do
Yes.
not disturb the classroom, right? And all that's happened to me. And so, but the book, when I read it really tells me to run in the opposite direction, to ask as many questions as possible, to explore possibilities, to look at all directions really, and to kind of get ideas, thoughts from everyone involved, be it the youngest executive to the senior most leader in the organization. Now, what, since we've been kind of, like I said, rostered into, subdue this natural curiosity, what do you think will be a natural way for us to bring this back into our lives, to incorporate this learning, be it into corporate workspaces, also into personal lives. Why not?
Great question. I think a very, very relevant question for this day and age. Um, the first thing I would say is we should have a disclaimer in the interview saying that no animals were killed in the process. Since you said
Yes.
curiosity killed the cat. Uh, Two, I would absolutely wholeheartedly agree with you. The moment you started saying that, I was remembering a couple of my teachers who I loved, but every time I raised my hand in the classroom and say, "Ma'am, I have a question," over a period of time, I was made to feel stupid by I'm asking questions, right? And they have a specific syllabus to complete, and all of that. So you're right. Really, along the way, our curiosity got killed. And now, interestingly, curiosity is amongst the key skills according to the Jobs 2025 report and all of that. Why is curiosity important? See, curiosity, I think, comes from a place of safe expression and is directly linked to our ability of asking great questions. We always have been told produce the best answers. But if we can't ask the right questions, if we can't form a well articulated question, you're going to get the wrong answers. Now I'll go directly to AI and ChatGPT and all of this because I get this question a lot of the times. But AI is going to kill our curiosity. I'm like, AI is actually going to bring your curiosity back into the workplace. And I'll help you understand why. The chat GPT is not going to give you anything except what you ask. So if you ask a ridiculously nonsense, badly formed question, it will give you garbage out. And then you're blaming chat GPT and it doesn't have. I'm like, are you even asking the right question? And the way to form a question at a very high level is, have you thought about the person, human centricity behind the question? Is it insight led? If there is no insight in the question, you are not going to get a great answer. Right? Now, understand when I'm asking a question to a bot and it's giving answers, ChatGPT actually allows me to go back and experiment with my own question, improve, give it more data. Now, if I'm not a curious person, so are you seeing how curiosity is directly linked to me being more productive at the end of the day, to actually me being a more innovative leader at the end of the day, right? So I would say it's time for human AI co-creation, and which is what I think has been said on LinkedIn and on the internet, that it's not AI who's going to replace humans, it's your own curiosity, I say, is going to replace you. If you cannot think curiously, if you can't form the right kind of questions, if you can't work with AI and bots to really co-create the future, you're finished. So it is the people who bring back curiosity and look at the world around them, challenge the status quo. And which is why, the reason why I climbed up the ladder, just to give you a personal kind of example, across three industries, because every time I was moving on, I always kept my childlike kind of curiosity mindset up. I used to get bored within 5 years of a typical industry. So I started with IT. I was a typical software engineer working behind the screen, got my MBA and moved into Deloitte, where it was extremely client, facing. Did that for 5 years. I was like, now what else other than giving yarn and consulting? I moved into an industry job because I wanted my hands dirty. What led me along the way and helped me really traverse, and people have, it did not impact my growth. I've always moved into higher levels of, whether it is designation of CTCs, because wherever I entered, they wanted a fresh point of view of somebody who comes from a different place. And today, if you ask me, that should be included in the job description of most leaders. Don't hire a leader, whether you're a team leader or business leader, from somebody in your same industry, because they will not bring anything new and disruptive to the table. They'll always bring incremental growth. And anyways, leaders are not supposed to really know the domain in depth. They should empower the teams to execute. Your job as a leader is to create psychologically safe environments for co-creation, build trust, empower people, build, enhance empathy, the overall emotional intelligence of the organization. All these things which I've written in the book are skills which we've always had. We've never just let ourselves really be who we really wanted to be. And we then blame the world that, it was society and the education system. I'm still saying the power is in your inner child. Rediscover that, everything else will come naturally. Just be human. That's it.
Be human. I think fantastic. It sums up our entire be human, be a child, be curious,
Yeah.
play, be the most natural form that you were born in, or the most
Yeah.
natural that you were as a child. I think fantastic. I think thank you so much, Avinash. This was such an eye-opening conversation, and it was a
Thank
truly
you.
pleasant experience to read the book. It was an absolute eye-opener. So thank you so much for this, and I'll see you in more of our events. Uh, Looking forward
Absolutely.
to
It's
that.
a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me to this August forum. I'm really looking forward to engaging with you at Tech, just want everyone else in the future. This is exciting times of change. So
Absolutely,
we have
absolutely,
to we have to make it happen together. Yes. Thank you.
absolutely. All right. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Thank you.